Warren Buffett visits an orphanage anonymously, but a child recognizes him and reveals a shocking secret. The November wind whistled through the bare trees surrounding Sunset Haven Orphanage in Omaha, Nebraska. Warren Buffett adjusted his worn coat and simple cap as he walked through the institution's entrance, just as he had done countless times before in other charitable organizations. At 94, he still believed in anonymous giving, preferring to observe the impact of his philanthropy without fanfare. The children's playroom buzzed with activity, some playing board games, others reading books, all of them unaware of their visitors' true identity. Warren smiled, content in his anonymity, until a small voice broke through his thoughts. "You're Warren Buffett," declared a thin, teen-year-old boy with piercing eyes. The statement wasn't a question, but a confident observation that made Warren freeze, mid-step. "I think you must be mistaking me for someone else, son," Warren replied, trying to maintain his composure while studying the boy's determined expression. The child shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "No, sir, I saw you on TV. My mom told me about you before she died. She said if I ever met you, I needed to tell you something important." Warren felt his heart skip a beat. "What might that be?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Ethan Carter," the boy said, glancing around before continuing in a hushed tone, "and I'm your grandson." Warren's world tilted on its axis as memories from decades past flooded his mind. Sarah Carter, a name he hadn't thought about in years. Their brief relationship before his empire grew, their paths diverging without a proper goodbye. Could it be possible? "That's quite a statement, young man," Warren managed, his voice steady despite his internal turmoil. "What makes you so sure about this?" Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. "This is my mom," he said, holding it out. "She told me everything before she passed away last year. She never told my father about me, and she never told you about her." Warren's hands trembled slightly as he took the photograph. The woman in the image was unmistakably Sarah, though older than he remembered her. Her eyes, the same piercing eyes that now studied him from Ethan's face, held the same determination he remembered. That evening, Warren sat in his study, the photograph on his desk, his mind racing with possibilities. He picked up his phone and dialed his most trusted attorney. "James, I need something handled with absolute discretion," he said. "I need a DNA test arranged, but this can't leak to anyone. And I mean anyone." Over the next 2 weeks, Warren found himself drawn back to the orphanage, spending time with Ethan. The boy's quick mind and sharp questions about business and economics reminded Warren of himself at that age. Despite his attempts to maintain professional distance, he found himself growing increasingly attached to the possibility that this bright young boy might indeed be his flesh and blood. When the DNA results finally arrived, Warren opened the envelope in the solitude of his home office. The words confirmed what his heart had already begun to accept. Ethan Carter was, without a doubt, his grandson. Warren's hands shook as he set down the DNA results. The confirmation of Ethan's lineage filled him with a mix of emotions, joy, regret, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He knew he needed to act quickly, but with utmost care. The next morning, Warren returned to Sunset Haven Orphanage, his heart set on sharing the news with Ethan. However, as he approached the main entrance, he noticed an unusual commotion. A small crowd of reporters had gathered, their cameras flashing and microphones extended. "Mr. Buffett, is it true you have a secret grandson?" one reporter shouted. "How long have you known about the boy?" another called out. Warren's blood ran cold. Somehow the news had leaked. He pushed past the throng of journalists, ignoring their questions, and hurried inside. The orphanage staff looked at him with a mixture of awe and confusion. "I'm sorry, Mr. Buffett," the director said, approaching him with a worried expression. "Someone on our staff must have overheard and leaked the information. We're trying to identify the source." Warren nodded grimly. "Where's Ethan?" he asked. "In his room." Hes confused and a bit overwhelmed by all this. When Warren entered Ethan's small room, he found the boy sitting on his bed, hugging his knees to his chest. The look of vulnerability on his face made Warren's heart ache. "I'm sorry, Ethan," Warren said softly. "This isn't how I wanted things to happen." Ethan looked up, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Is it true? Are you really my grandfather?" Warren sat down beside him, nodding slowly. Yes, it's true. I just found out for certain myself. I wanted us to have time to process this privately, but it seems the world had other plans. As the days passed, the media frenzy intensified. Headlines blared across newspapers and websites. Buffett's secret heir discovered, and orphan boy set to inherit billions. Warren's legal team worked tirelessly to manage the situation, but the damage was done. Ethan found himself thrust into a spotlight he never asked for. Classmates at the orphanage treated him differently, some with awe, others with jealousy. The staff struggled to maintain normalcy amid the constant requests for interviews and information. Warren, for his part, felt torn. He wanted to protect Ethan from the media circus, but he also knew he needed to address the situation publicly. After much deliberation, he decided to hold a press conference. Standing before a sea of cameras and reporters, Warren spoke carefully. Yes, I recently discovered that I have a grandson, Ethan Carter. This news came as a surprise to me, as I'm sure it did to many of you. I ask that you respect Ethan's privacy during this time. He's a young boy who's been through a lot, and he deserves the chance to process this change in his life without undue pressure. But even as Warren tried to calm the waters, a new storm was brewing. One afternoon, as he visited Ethan at the orphanage, the director pulled him aside with a worried expression. "Mr. Buffett, we have a situation," she said, her voice low. "A man named Richard Hale came by yesterday. He claims to be Ethan's legal guardian and wants to take him away." Warren felt a chill run down his spine. Who is this man? Why haven't we heard of him before? The director shook her head. He says he was a close friend of Ethan's mother. He has documents, but something doesn't feel right. We've never heard Ethan mention him. Warren's mind raced. He'd seen enough business dealings to recognize the scent of opportunism. If this Richard Hale gained custody of Ethan, there was no telling what he might do to exploit the boy's newfound connection to one of the world's wealthiest men. "I need to speak with my lawyers," Warren said, his voice firm. "And I need to talk to Ethan. We need to protect him, not just from the media, but from those who might try to take advantage of this situation." As he walked back to Ethan's room, Warren knew that the real battle was just beginning. He had to find a way to safeguard his grandson's future without robbing him of his chance at a normal life. It was a delicate balance, one that would require all of his wisdom and resources to maintain. Warren Buffett sat in his attorney's office, his face etched with concern as he reviewed the documents spread before him. The situation with Ethan had escalated quickly, and now they were facing a complex legal battle against Richard Hale, the man claiming to be Ethan's rightful guardian. "We've filed for temporary custody," James, Warren's longtime lawyer, explained, "but Hale's team is pushing back hard. They're claiming that his connection to Ethan's mother gives him precedence." Warren leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "What do we know about this man? Anything concrete?" James shook his head. "Not much. He's kept a low profile until now. But something doesn't add up. We're digging deeper into his background." As they strategized, the media circus outside grew louder. News vans lined the street, reporters clamoring for any tidbit of information about the billionaire's newfound grandson and the ensuing custody battle. Meanwhile, at Sunset Haven Orphanage, Ethan struggled with the whirlwind of changes in his life. Reporters tried to sneak onto the grounds, other children pestered him with questions, and the staff seemed unsure how to treat him. One afternoon, during one of Warren's visits, Ethan finally broke down. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Is it just because I'm your grandson? Or are you trying to make yourself feel better?" The question hit Warren like a punch to the gut. He realized that in all the legal maneuvering and media management, he hadn't fully considered how Ethan was processing everything. "Ethan," Warren said softly, kneeling to meet the boy's eyes, "I'm doing this because I believe it's the right thing to do. You're not just my grandson, you're a bright young man who deserves a chance at a good life. But I don't want to force anything on you. What do you want?" Ethan hesitated, then spoke quietly. "I don't care about money or being famous. I just want someone who sees me as a person, not a prize to be won." Warren's conversation with Ethan marked a turning point in his approach to the situation. He realized that simply throwing money and lawyers at the problem wasn't the solution. He needed to consider Ethan's emotional well-being above all else. The next day, Warren called a meeting with his legal team and the orphanage director. "We need to change our strategy," he announced. "This isn't about winning a legal battle, it's about doing what's best for Ethan." As they discussed alternative approaches, news broke that sent shockwaves through the case. One of Warren's private investigators had uncovered damning evidence about Richard Hale's past. It turned out Hale had a history of attempting to exploit wealthy families, using false claims of guardianship to gain access to fortunes. Armed with this information, Warren's team moved swiftly. They presented the evidence to the court, effectively dismantling Hale's claim to guardianship. The judge, seeing the clear attempt at fraud, revoked any rights Hale might have had over Ethan. It was a decisive victory, but Warren knew it was only the beginning. As the media frenzy reached new heights, with headlines screaming about the Buffett heir scandal, Warren made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of pushing for full custody, Warren proposed a unique arrangement. He would establish a trust fund for Ethan's education and well-being, but the boy would remain at Sunset Haven under the care of the staff he knew and trusted. Warren would act as a mentor and grandfather figure, but Ethan would be free to choose his own path in life. When Warren presented this idea to Ethan, the boy's response was cautious but hopeful. "So I get to decide for myself?" he asked. Warren nodded, a small smile on his face. "Exactly. I don't want you to be burdened with being Warren Buffett's heir. I want you to have the freedom to become whoever you want to be." For the first time since the whole ordeal began, Ethan's face lit up with a genuine smile. It was a small moment, but to Warren it felt like a monumental victory. As they left the courthouse after finalizing the arrangements, Warren turned to Ethan. "Remember, if this story touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales." Ethan laughed, the sound lightening the mood after weeks of tension. It was a reminder that beneath all the legal battles and media scrutiny, there was just a boy and his grandfather, beginning to forge a relationship on their own terms. As the dust settled from the legal battle, Ethan and Warren began the delicate process of building a relationship. Their weekly meetings at Sunset Haven became a fixture, with Warren arriving quietly in his modest car, always greeted by Ethan's eager smile. During one of these visits, Warren brought a chessboard. "I thought we could play a game," he suggested. "It's a great way to exercise the mind." Ethan's eyes lit up. "I've always wanted to learn chess." As Warren taught Ethan the rules, moving pieces across the board, he found himself sharing stories of his own childhood, his early business ventures, and the lessons he'd learned along the way. Ethan listened intently, asking insightful questions that often surprised Warren with their depth. "You know," Warren said, after Ethan made a particularly clever move in business and in life, "it's not always about making the most aggressive move. Sometimes the key is patience and careful planning." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "Like how you handled the situation with Mr. Hale?" Warren smiled, impressed by the connection. "Exactly. Sometimes the best way to win is to change the game entirely." As weeks turned into months, Ethan's life at the orphanage began to normalize. The media frenzy died down and he was able to focus on his studies and friendships. Warren made sure the trust fund provided for extra tutoring and educational opportunities, but he was careful not to spoil Ethan or set him apart from his peers. As Ethan entered his teenage years, new challenges emerged. The knowledge of his connection to Warren Buffett, while no longer front-page news, still affected his life in subtle ways. Some classmates at his new school treated him differently when they found out, either trying to befriend him for perceived benefits or shunning him out of jealousy. During one of their chess matches, Ethan confided in Warren about his struggles. "Sometimes I wish nobody knew about our connection," he admitted. "It's like I can't just be myself." Warren listened attentively, recognizing the weight of the legacy he had inadvertently placed on Ethan's shoulders. "I understand," he said softly. "It's not easy being associated with a public figure. But remember, Ethan, you are your own person. Your actions and choices define you, not your relation to me." Ethan nodded, but Warren could see the doubt in his eyes. It was a struggle he knew all too well from raising his own children in the public eye. As Ethan's 16th birthday approached, Warren pondered how to help his grandson navigate these complex waters. He wanted to give Ethan something meaningful, something that would empower him to forge his own path. The solution came to him during a late-night reflection on his own journey. Warren realized that the most valuable gift he could offer wasn't money or connections, but the tools to think independently and make sound decisions. On Ethan's birthday, Warren presented him with a beautifully bound journal. "This isn't just any notebook," Warren explained. "I want you to use this to record your thoughts, your goals, and your decisions. Write down what you learn, both from successes and failures. It's a practice I've followed my entire life, and it's been invaluable." Ethan ran his hand over the leather cover, a mix of emotions playing across his face. "Thank you," he said quietly. "This means a lot." As they shared a cake with Ethan's friends from the orphanage, Warren watched his grandson interact with his peers. Despite the unique circumstances of his life, Ethan was growing into a thoughtful, kind young man. Warren felt a surge of pride, mixed with a tinge of regret for the years they had missed. That evening, as Warren prepared to leave, Ethan stopped him. "Grandpa," he said, the word still new and slightly awkward on his tongue, "I've been thinking about something. I want to start a project at school, something to help other kids who don't have the advantages I've been given. Would you help?" "Me plan it?" Warren's heart swelled with pride. "Of course, Ethan, I'd be honored to help. And remember, if this story of growth and connection touched you, make sure to like and subscribe for more inspiring content." As he drove home that night, Warren reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought Ethan into his life. He realized that in trying to guide his grandson, he too was learning valuable lessons about family, legacy, and the true meaning of wealth. As Ethan's high school years progressed, his idea for a community project began to take shape. With Warren's guidance, he developed a plan for a mentorship program that would pair successful professionals with underprivileged students in Omaha. The key, Warren advised during one of their planning sessions, is to create something sustainable. It's not just about the immediate impact, but how it can grow and continue to help people long after we're gone. Ethan nodded, scribbling notes in the journal Warren had given him. "I was thinking we could start small, maybe with just 10 mentor-student pairs. Then we can learn from the experience and expand." Warren smiled, impressed by Ethan's pragmatic approach. "That's smart thinking. It reminds me of how I built Berkshire Hathaway step by step, always learning and adapting." As they worked on the project, Ethan's confidence grew. He led presentations to his school board, local businesses and community leaders, articulating his vision with a clarity that belied his young age. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with potential mentors, Ethan turned to Warren with a grin. "You know, I think I'm starting to understand why you love business so much. It's not just about making money, is it? It's about creating something meaningful." Warren felt a surge of pride. "Exactly, Ethan. The money is just a byproduct. The real reward is in building something that makes a difference." As Ethan's mentorship program, which he named Bridge to Success, began to take off, new challenges emerged. The initial excitement gave way to the realities of running a non-profit organization. Scheduling conflicts, personality clashes between mentors and mentees, and funding issues all threatened to derail the project. During one particularly stressful week, Ethan called Warren in a panic. "Everything's falling apart," he said, his voice strained. "2 mentors quit, and we lost a major donor. Maybe I'm in over my head." Warren listened calmly, then said, "Ethan, do you remember our first chess game? How you felt overwhelmed by all the pieces and possible moves?" "Yeah," Ethan replied, a hint of a smile in his voice at the memory. "Running an organization is a lot. Like that. It seems chaotic at first, but with patience and strategic thinking, patterns emerge. Let's break down these problems one by one." Over the next few hours, they worked through each issue methodically. Warren shared stories of his own, early setbacks and how he overcame them. By the end of the call, Ethan had a clear action plan and renewed determination. As Bridge to Success weathered its first storm, Ethan learned valuable lessons about resilience and problem-solving. The program not only survived, but thrived, expanding to neighboring schools and garnering attention from local media. One day, as they watched a group of mentors and students working together in a bustling community center, Warren turned to Ethan. "You know, when I first learned about you, I worried about what kind of legacy I would leave. But watching you now, I realize that the best legacy isn't about money or fame. It's about inspiring others to make a difference." Ethan nodded, his eyes shining with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you, Grandpa." Warren squeezed his shoulder. Gently. "You did this, Ethan. I just provided a little guidance, the vision, the hard work, the perseverance, that's all you." As they left the community center, Warren couldn't help but add with a wink, "And remember, if you're inspired by Ethan's journey of growth and impact, don't forget to like and subscribe for more uplifting stories." Ethan laughed, shaking his head, at his grandfather's newfound enthusiasm for social media engagement. As they walked to the car, both felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unexpected turn of events that had brought them together and the positive change they were creating in their community. As Ethan's high school graduation approached, he found himself at a crossroads. The success of Bridge to Success had opened up unexpected opportunities, including offers from prestigious universities and even inquiries from venture capitalists interested in scaling the program nationally. One evening, as they sat in Warren's study, Ethan voiced his dilemma. "I always thought he'd go straight to college, but now I'm not so sure. Part of me wants to focus on expanding the program. What do you think I should do?" Warren leaned back in his chair, considering his words carefully. "Ethan, this is a decision only you can make. But let me share something with you. In my life, I've found that the most rewarding paths are often the ones that scare us a little, the ones that push us out of our comfort zones." Ethan nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "But what if I make the wrong choice?" Warren smiled. "There's rarely such a thing as a wrong choice, as long as you're true to yourself and your values. Every decision is an opportunity to learn and grow." After much deliberation, Ethan made a bold decision. He would defer his college acceptance for a year to focus on expanding Bridge to Success. The choice raised eyebrows among some of his teachers and peers, but Ethan felt confident in his path. Ethan's gap year proved to be transformative. With Warren's mentorship and his own growing network, he successfully expanded Bridge to Success to 5 new cities. The program's impact began to draw national attention, with feature articles in major publications and invitations for Ethan to speak at conferences. As the year progressed, Ethan found himself navigating board meetings, negotiating partnerships, and managing a growing team. The challenges were immense, but he approached each one with the strategic thinking he'd learned from chess and his grandfather's teachings. One particularly memorable moment came when Ethan was invited to speak at a national education conference. As he stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, he felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. "When I started Bridge to Success," Ethan began, his voice steady, "I was just a kid with a big idea and an even bigger support system. I've learned that success isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions, surrounding yourself with great people, and never being afraid to learn from your mistakes." As he continued his speech, Ethan caught sight of Warren sitting in the audience, a proud smile on his face. In that moment, Ethan realized how far he'd come from the uncertain orphan who had first recognized the billionaire in a crowded playroom. After the conference, as they shared a quiet dinner, Warren raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings and unexpected journeys," he said, his eyes twinkling. Ethan clinked his glass against his grandfather's. "And to the people who guide us along the way," he added. As the year drew to a close, Ethan faced another decision. He had been accepted to several top business schools, but he also had offers to join prestigious firms that could help take Bridge to Success to the next level. "Whatever you choose," Warren advised, "remember that your greatest asset is your mind. Keep learning, stay curious, and always strive to make a positive impact." Ethan nodded, grateful for the wisdom. As he weighed his options, he couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought him to this point. From an orphan with an uncertain future to a young man with the world of possibilities before him, Ethan knew that his story was just beginning. And to all those following Ethan's inspiring journey, Warren added with a wink, "Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more uplifting content." Ethan laughed, shaking his head at his grandfather's newfound social media. Savvy. As they left the restaurant, both felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unexpected turn of events that had brought them together and the positive change they were creating in the world. As summer faded into autumn, Ethan made his decision. He would attend Stanford University, studying business and social entrepreneurship, while continuing to oversee Bridge to Success from afar. The program had grown strong enough to sustain itself with a capable team he had assembled, allowing Ethan to pursue his education without abandoning his passion project. On the day before Ethan was set to leave for California, he and Warren took a long walk through Omaha's heartland of America Park. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the lake, and a gentle breeze carried the promise of change. "You know, Grandpa," Ethan said, breaking a comfortable silence, "when I first met you, I thought my life was going to change because of money or fame, but the real change came from something else entirely." Warren raised an eyebrow, encouraging Ethan to continue. "It was about learning to see the bigger picture," Ethan explained. "You taught me that true wealth isn't just about dollars in a bank account. It's about the impact we have on others, the relationships we build, and the legacy we leave behind." Warren nodded, his eyes misty. "You've taught me a few things too, you know. You've reminded me of the importance of family, of taking chances on people, and of never being too old to start a new chapter in life." As they reached a bench overlooking the water, they sat down. Warren pulled out a small wrapped package from his pocket. "I have something for you," he said, handing it to Ethan. Ethan carefully unwrapped it to reveal a vintage pocket watch. He opened it to find an inscription inside. "Time is the most valuable asset we have. Use it wisely. W.B." "This watch belonged to my father," Warren explained. "He gave it to me when I started my journey in business. Now, I want you to have it as you begin your own journey." Ethan's fingers traced the delicate engravings on the watch face. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll treasure it always." Years passed, and Ethan's journey continued to unfold in ways neither he nor Warren could have predicted. He excelled at Stanford, combining his academic studies with practical experience from running Bridge to Success. The program continued to grow, touching thousands of lives across the country. On a warm spring day, 5 years after Ethan had left for college, he stood beside Warren at the grand opening of the Carter Buffett Center for Social Entrepreneurship in Omaha. The center, a joint project they had worked on together, would serve as a hub for nurturing young social entrepreneurs and scaling impactful initiatives. As they cut the ribbon together, flashbulbs popping and applause filling the air, Ethan leaned in to whisper to his grandfather. "Remember when you said the best legacy isn't about money or fame, but about inspiring others to make a difference?" Warren nodded, a proud smile on his face. "Well," Ethan continued, "I think we've done that, and we're just getting started." Later that evening, as they shared a quiet moment away from the crowds, Warren reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them to this point. From a chance encounter in an orphanage to building a legacy of positive change together, their story had been one of growth, challenge, and ultimate triumph. "You know, Ethan," Warren said, his voice gentle, "when I think about all the investments I've made in my life, meeting you that day at Sunset Haven was by far the best one." Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and purpose. As they looked out over the city they both loved, grandfather and grandson stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities the future might bring. "And to all those who followed our journey," Ethan added with a grin, channeling his grandfather's spirit, "don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our story. Together, we can inspire even more people to make a positive difference in the world." Warren chuckled, patting Ethan on the back. As the sun set on Omaha, casting a warm glow over the city, both men felt a profound sense of accomplishment and excitement for the chapters yet to be written in their ongoing story of family, legacy, and the power of unexpected connections.